Ladies and gentlemen, let's bring in the next speaker on board, Mr. Zakhar Symchych. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Zakhar is an educational and media expert with solid theoretical and practical background. Prior to joining Ensof LLC, Zakhar was working for almost a decade as a producing editor for 1+1 Media, biggest Ukraine TV and media group. Zakhar holds a master's degree in philology at National University in Ukraine. Zakhar is passionate about popularizing inclusive educational techniques on different levels and forms of education. Let's go ahead and welcome Mr. Zakhar on board.
Good morning, everybody. It's nice to meet you all. I'd like to start my speech with the following quote. In 1963, Louisiana State University at Baton Rouge professor Leon Magnuson was quoted as saying, according to Darwin's Origin of Species, it is not the most intellectual of the species that survives. It is not the strongest that survives, but the species that survives is the one that is able best to adapt and adjust to the changing environment in which it finds itself. It's been nearly a year and a half since our world first learned of the COVID threat, and our lives were forever changed by the global efforts to combat and contain it. In an instant, a global community that thought it was radically progressing upward to new and infinite heights of opportunities was severely cut down and set back by an unknown and unseen enemy. Problems and warning signs of decades past that went otherwise unnoticed or neglected became unavoidable to solve. We were left with no other choice but to adapt accordingly and move forward. Today, we are slowly and reluctantly settling into a new state of reality that many are calling the new normal. Our ideas of the future are gradually being reshaped by the ever-changing circumstances that impact our world on a daily basis. While no one is certain of the road that lies ahead, it is my genuine hope that those of us who possess the necessary resources, insights, and influence to help build a brighter future, that taking full advantage of this unique opportunity to step back, consider past mistakes, rethink old and possibly outdated methods, and create new and more effective ways of doing things while our world is essentially on hiatus. One area of focus I'd like to have you consider in particular is education, primary digital learning. First, starting out modestly as a way of educating full-time employees in remote regions, digital learning has become an integral part of our lives, especially during these COVID times. In 2018, 34.7% of college students were enrolled in at least one online course, with a steady increase in popularity from previous years. Over time, digital learning has allowed for a type of flexible accessibility to training and academic courses that does not exist within the traditional classroom model, which is why it was the main go-to for primary schools and secondary schools when the first lockdowns were enforced last year. However, as many educators, students, and parents discovered during the first lockdowns, there exist significant issues in the quality of digital education due to a number of reasons. Prior to COVID, education systems all over the world were plagued with such issues as education inequality, outdated learning systems, underpaid and overworked teachers, and lack of financial and political support from the government. Sadly, these problems became even more apparent with the arrival of COVID. Too many primary school teachers, students, and parents were poorly equipped to make the shift to full-time digital learning, especially in impoverished areas. Then you have the primary school students who haven't been fortunate enough to have access to the technological resources necessary to participate in digital learning. Recent studies have shown that a number of students, predominantly minorities, impoverished and disabled, are falling significantly behind in school, partially because they're unable to benefit from the in-person support of their teachers and peers, as well as having hands-on experience. This is essentially the case with science education. As you can see, we at ENSOF have made it our mission to be fully aware of these issues that trouble our schools today. While we lack the necessary resources to create and implement solutions to them all, we have managed to come up with a select few. Working with children who suffer from learning disabilities is one of the main priorities of our company. And this is no accident. Two of our team members have children on the autistic spectrum, the co-founder of the company and me. Our children are about the same age and we were diagnosed around at the same time. So considering the problems we've had to face, we're very much in the same situation. And I guess this could be said about every other parent around the world who's received news from a specialist that their child has autism spectrum disorder or ASD and will need developmental therapy. They don't know where to start, what kind of therapy is needed. There's lack of specialists and centers. There are many techniques with different levels of evidence and effectiveness, but how do you choose the right one for a child? After careful analysis of our personal experiences, as well as the experiences of hundreds of other parents, we have created a unique portal that solves all of these problems. Our system makes it possible to bring together professionals and parents in one virtual place to determine the best approach for engaging the child. Once the best approach is established, all those involved in the child's lessons can receive individualized protocols to help ensure the lessons move in one direction. Analytical recommendations for future classes are then formed on the basis of the detailed statistics that are collected from each child's course of lessons. Parents of children with autism know the common saying that each autist has his or her own autism. This means that each child with ASD needs an individual approach and protocol of classes. Thankfully, our portal provides just that. We don't adjust the child to the curriculum. On the contrary, we form a detailed protocol for each child. And if necessary, we provide necessary didactic materials for classes if a family or specialist needs them. As for our next solution, we at ENSOF thought it best to fill the need for another area of early childhood education that often gets overlooked. Current studies show that careers in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, STEM for short, are not only steadily on the rise, but also that kids should start developing an interest in national science as early as 5 years old. To spark and nurture this interest, we've designed a comprehensive educational solution that creates a thriving learning environment. It's called Sensorium. It consists of 3 main components, each of which can be used separately, but all 3 together form a unique educational tool. The child uses the first component, a tablet known as the Real Digital Lab, and the second component, traditional lab equipment, in conjunction to conduct legitimate lab experiments. Each tablet is equipped with 10 built-in sensors with an option to connect different external sensors that can measure, for example, atmospheric pressure, brightness, UV index, humidity, etc. Rather than distract the kid from the world full of gadgets, it capitalizes on that fascination of technology in order to help them get acquainted with dozens of natural phenomena. All of these experiments are conducted as a part of well-planned lessons aimed at engaging young students in the world of science. The third and final component is an animated virtual friend named Sense, who guides young students through their experimental work, as well as assist them in attaining knowledge of the major laws of physics, chemistry, biology, and other sciences. Ultimately, we believe the best thing a primary school teacher can strive to do is preserve and satisfy a child's natural curiosity. Our idea is to enlighten children on the best way to learn and not just to absorb information. This solution provides a unique opportunity for young learners to master the basics of science in places like the primary school, as well as other settings like at home or even a kindergarten. The main requirement of time for modern education, in our understanding, is personalization. As we have repeatedly heard from previous speakers, the world has changed and it must be accepted. There is no singly effective learning format for all children. Everyone needs an individual approach, and modern technology allows just that. We have developed a unique portal with incredible capabilities for collecting analytical data. Through analyzing the learning process of our digital school students, we have the opportunity to provide each of them with unique individual recommendations, such as what learning method works best for them, on what day of the week and even time of the day it is most effective to watch, for example, video lessons, when it's better to read the reference summary before the test, when it's best time to review additional materials or take tests, which subjects should be studied more in depth, and where is the best appropriate to revise the basic level. Following our individual recommendations, children then have much better academic success, which becomes an incredibly strong motivating factor for them, especially since we have developed several different formats for explaining and repeating the material. They are a video, reference notes, training tasks, additional materials, and testing. This, again, allows different children to learn in the most comfortable and therefore most effective way for their individual needs. They also receive relevant recommendations to help guide them in their career aspirations. All of this is possible thanks to our unique learning model. All our achievements include training in both online and offline schools. Additionally, based on the deep knowledge of a dozen Ukrainian and foreign curricula, our methodologists and production department can create unique educational content based on your curriculum and the language of your choice. The application of the above approaches for working with special needs children will, first of all, give them more and more opportunities to develop skills during the preschool age. This, in turn, will present more opportunities for the development and realization of the latter potential in life. From my own experience, I can personally attest to how the progress seen in the development of a child with special education needs is likewise an incredible motivating factor for parents and professionals. It gives energy and motivation to reach new and unlimited heights. The combination of therapeutic classes with modern possibilities of artificial intelligence opens new horizons for us all. Moreover, putting communication between parents and professionals into digital space eliminate borders and frees up an incredible amount of time, which is an invaluable resource. Early intervention in classes of children with special education needs is the key. In the same way, the study of natural sciences and mathematics is key for primary school students. The earlier a child is introduced to science, significantly improves the chances of enhancing the child's development of critical thinking, causation, and his/her understanding of the processes that takes place around us. This, in turn, sets the foundation for transforming a student into a self-sufficient and successful person in the future. That is why we do our best to give children a chance to love learning as well as discover an exciting world for them to enjoy as soon as possible. We all know that the most important requirement of today's climate of educational need is that it has to be personalized. Each person is unique and requires a separate approach. Just 20 years ago, it was impossible, or at least incredibly time-consuming, to prescribe a separate educational trajectory for a child. Modern technology allows us to do this now by analyzing the characteristics of the person, rhythm of life, and other information. Learning success, in other words, mastering hard skills, gives the child self-confidence, therein leading to the harmonious development of soft skills. Namely, a successful blending of the skills is what we want to achieve in education, those of future generations. Thank you for your attention, and I'll be happy to answer the questions if you have any.
It was a pleasure having you on our platform. Thank you for coming and sharing insights. I'm sure everybody is delighted to have you on board and to listen to your session. Thank you so much once again.